white can play queen g6. Okay, I got confused because computer says that king e8, black is better, but I played king e8 and now it says white is better. I don't know what's going on with the chess.com engines, but I'm using Komodo here and it doesn't seem that accurate. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I decided to show you a beautiful game by no other than Hikaru Nakamura. But this game is an old game. This game was played by him when he was only 14 years old, and he beat his opponent in just 17 moves. So he played a very tactical and sharp game, and at the same time beautiful. So I want to analyze this game for you guys, and you can also use these tricks and traps in your games, because in the opening there is a trap that actually you can use in your own games against your opponents. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so Hikaru Nakamura is playing as white. As you can see, Fernandez is playing as black. Back then, Hikaru had a rating of 2430, and I think he was about to get his Grandmaster title, because he became a Grandmaster when he was 15 years old, just 15 years old. Yes, you heard me right. And I believe that he had a better record than Bobby Fischer. I think he actually became the youngest Grandmaster in the United States. But I might be wrong. So write me in comment section if this is not true. But anyway, this is a very nice game. So let's start the game. So he started with e4, his opponent played c5, and as you can see, we have Sicilian defense on the board, and Sicilian defense is a sharp opening. So he played knight f3 here, and black played d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4. All the moves are theory here. Knight f6, knight c3, the pawn is protected, knight c6. So as you know, in the opening we want to get our pieces out. So here white played bishop e3 and black played knight g4. Knight g4 is actually one of the moves here. The idea is to attack the bishop on e3 and exchange this knight with the bishop. And if black can exchange this bishop, then black is gonna have two bishops, pair of bishops, which is an advantage for him. So that's why white didn't want to exchange. White moved the bishop to g5. Black played queen b6. Okay, this is very sharp. So we are on move number 7, and you can see some actions already. So the queen is attacking the pawn on b2, and at the same time the knight on d4 is under attack. So what should white play in this position? White decided to play bishop b5. The idea is to block this queen and also to pin this knight so the knight cannot take the other knight. And obviously black can't take with the queen, because then, not queen d2 guys, that was a mouse slip. Queen takes d4 and we can win the queen, and this knight cannot take because of the pin. So that's why after bishop b5, black played bishop d7. Black is unpinning this knight, and now he wants to take the knight once again. So here white castled and white sacrificed the knight. And the reason is, you see that this bishop is not only blocking this pin, but also he is protecting the knight on g4. So the bishop on d7 is overloaded. And in the game, black here played h6. But let's say if black takes the knight on d4, white can take on d7, king takes d7, and then queen takes g4 check. And this king is really exposed. So black can't win this knight. And if the queen takes here, which actually was a game, between Rode versus Fabiano Caruana in 2019. They played this position around 4 years ago, and the game continued with bishop takes c6, queen takes d1, bishop takes d7, king takes d7, rook a d1, rook c8, bishop f4, f6, a4, g5, bishop c1, and eventually Fabiano won his game. Fabiano is playing as black in this position. But anyway, let's go back to the game. In the game, instead of taking on d4, which was the best move in this position, black played h6. So what's the plan here? The plan is to attack the bishop. The bishop moved back to e3 to protect the knight and also create some sort of discovery attack like knight c6. But notice that here black can take the bishop and create double pawns for white. But actually, since the black king is in the center, white has more than enough compensation. So here black played knight e5, which was a big mistake. A better move here for black, according to computer, is either to push the pawn to e6 with the idea to develop the bishop to e7, or to move the pawn to h5 and trying to play on this side g6, bishop g7, you know, to castle short here. But anyway, in the game, black played knight e5, which was a mistake, bishop takes d7, and he took with the king. Here, black cannot take with the knight because white has a very nice tactical ideas. White can start with knight e5. The knight is attacking the queen, and this queen needs to keep an eye on c7. So let's say if the queen goes back to d8, now white can play knight e6. We are attacking the queen, and also at the same time we are putting pressure on c7. So we want to get a fork. I hope that I didn't confuse you with a lot of, with too many arrows on the board. But anyway, so let's say after f takes e6, if black here takes the knight, we can check on h5 and g6, queen takes g6, checkmate. So this is not possible. So that's why in the game black couldn't take with the knight. Black has to take with the king. After king takes d7, Hikaru played knight d5 to attack this queen. Black played queen d8, and then here queen d8, okay, was not a good move. A better move was queen a6, but even after queen a6, white could simply take the pawn on f7, which is actually very important in this position. And the idea is that this knight is defending two squares, or it's better to say the knight is protecting this square and also the pawn on f7. So anyway, the knight is overloaded, right? So we can take this pawn to deflect this knight away, and then we can play queen g4 check. Now this king doesn't have a lot of squares to escape. The king can either move to d8 or e8. But let's say if the king goes to d8, we can play knight e6 check. And if the king goes to e8, then knight c7. Beautiful family fork. So this is absolutely winning for white. So in the game, black played queen d8. And after queen d8, Hikaru played knight f3. Although here, white had a better plan. White could immediately take the pawn on f7 because white is just winning. White has enough pieces here on the board. So let's say if the knight takes on f7, white can check on g4. The king is in check. And let's say the king goes to e8. White can play queen g6. Okay, I got confused because computer says that king e8, black is better. But I played king e8 and now it says white is better. I don't know what's going on with the chess.com engines, but I'm using Komodo here and it doesn't seem that accurate. But anyway, that's not our topic today. So anyway, we can play Queen G6. The knight is pinned, right? And the queen moved to D7. And if the queen doesn't move to D7, I mean, black doesn't have a lot of moves. Black needs to develop the bishop, but how can he develop the bishop? The pawn is blocked. And if he moves the other pawn to e5, white can play knight e6. The knight is attacking the queen. We want to check here. And it's just a disaster for black. And if black goes queen d7, with the idea to castle long or somehow, you know, get his queen to a better square, we can just play knight e6. The king stalk on e8. And after, let's say, rook c8, we can play rook f1, and this knight can be captured on the next move and it's going to be a checkmate. So for example, let's say if black takes the pawn on c2, we can simply checkmate the king in just one move. Okay, but in the game, Hikaru Nakamura didn't take on f7. Instead, he played knight f3, which is another great move in this position, but not the most precise move. But it's good enough. So white still is winning. So here black played knight c6. If black takes the knight on f3, white can take on f3. And even though we traded off a lot of pieces on the board, but white is better because look at black's pieces. All of them are on the 8th rank. And it's so funny that his king is the only piece that he has on the 7th rank. I mean, not the 8th rank. And by pieces, I mean not the pawns, because pawns are like chessmen, right? We don't consider pawns as pieces. But it's funny that the most active piece probably is the king here. But anyway, so here white is much better. That's why black moved the knight to c6, moved the knight back to c6. And here white played knight d4. In this position, a better move is to play b4. The idea is to play b5. And let's say if black plays a6, to prevent b5, white can play c4. Notice that we can push our pawn one more time. And if e6, we can play b5. Takes, pawn takes, pawn takes. Here take, knight e5, brilliant move here, and it's just over. So white can sacrifice the knight in order to checkmate the king, so we can check on d5. If the king goes to c7, we have a lot of checks here, and probably the king will be checkmated very soon, like here, 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 and then let's say queen b7 or rook b7, whatever you like to play. So king c7 is obviously not good, but let's say if the bishop blocks, we can take on f7, and if the king goes to c8, we have one move checkmate on b7, beautiful checkmate. And if the king goes to e8, we can play rook takes g7. Now the idea is to play queen f7, checkmate. So here, if the bishop goes to e7 to basically create this square for the king, we can still check king d7, and then we can play rook d1 check. And this is a skewer, and next move we can take the queen simply and take the bishop, and white is winning. But anyway, let's go back to the game, because this is move number 15. It means just 2 more moves and white is winning. So white played knight d4 here, and then black played knight e5 again. And here Hikaru realized that yes, he can sack the rook. So he took on f7. His opponent didn't take on f7. Instead, he pushed the pawn to g5. But let's say if the knight takes on f7, we can play queen g4 check, king e8, and then we can play knight e6. And again, we have this idea with the knight. So let's say queen c8. We can even play queen g6 to pin the knight, queen c4, rook f1, and white is totally winning. So let's say if the king goes to if the king goes to d7, then we can take on f7. I believe we can take with either one, but computer somehow likes this move better. And there is no check here, so knight takes, check, rook here, rook e7, king c6, rook c7, and then we can pick up the rook, pick up the queen with our rook in the next move. So let's go back to the game. Hikaru Nakamura found this beautiful move. Rook takes f7, and then black pushed the pawn to g5. Here, Hikaru played a move, and his opponent just resigned. Yes, at this point, he resigned the game. Okay, I want you guys to stop this video and find the best move for white. What do you think? What's the best move here for white? Can you find the move that Hikaru Nakamura made when he was only 14 years old? What do you think? Okay, I hope you guys find this move, but the move is queen f1, which is a tricky move. The idea is we need to get our queen to f5 to check the king, but we can't do it through f3 because the knight is here, or we can't go here because the knight is covering that square. So the move is queen f1. Not only we are attacking here, but also we can check on b5, and this is just winning for white. But let's say if in this position black moves the king to c8, we can check on f5, the king goes to b8, then we can play knight e6. Now the knight is attacking the queen, and if the queen goes to e8, we can take, rook takes f8, knight takes f8, and here white is winning because not only the king is really exposed, but also white is up by 4 points, so there's no hope for black to come back to the game. So that's why in the game after queen f1 in this position, black just resigned, and Hikaru Nakamura won his game in just 17 moves. Okay guys, I hope you like this video and you can use this trick in your own games. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.